Rachel and I grew up in a big town filled with about 30,000 people. We've known each other since we were little, probably around 6 or 7 years old, although the exact age is a bit fuzzy in my memory. But what I do remember clearly is that we were like two peas in a pod, always together, inseparable. As we got older, our friendship turned into something more. At 16, we took the leap and started dating. By the time we hit 18, we decided to leave our hometown behind and venture to a city a few hours away for work opportunities. It was a big step for us, but we were excited about the adventures that awaited us. At 20, we took another big step in our journey together. We got married. It was a joyous occasion, surrounded by our friends and family. We also bought our first house, a cozy little place that we could call our own. Everything seemed to be falling into place for us, but just when we thought life couldn't get any better, disaster struck. At 22, Rachel found out she was pregnant with our first child, a boy. We were over the moon with excitement, eagerly anticipating the arrival of our little bundle of joy. But then, tragedy hit. About 5 weeks before Rachel was due to go on maternity leave, a terrible accident occurred at her workplace. A huge shelving unit collapsed, crushing her and our unborn child. It was a devastating blow that left me reeling with grief and disbelief. The news only got worse when I learned that 2 of Rachel's colleagues were also injured in the accident. One was left paralyzed, while the other had to have his leg amputated. What made it even harder to bear was the knowledge that the company Rachel worked for had knowingly put their employees at risk by using old, unsafe shelving units as a cost-cutting measure. I couldn't shake the anger and resentment I felt towards the executives and management personnel who made that decision. Their negligence had cost me the love of my life and our unborn child, and it was something I couldn't forgive. The pain of losing Rachel and our baby was something that would stay with me forever, a wound that would never fully heal. After receiving the heartbreaking news about Rachel and our unborn child, I found myself thrust into a world of legal battles and negotiations. It didn't take long before I was confronted with what Rachel's company called compensation, but to me, it felt more like blood money. They wanted to settle the matter outside of court, hoping to avoid a lawsuit altogether. But I wasn't willing to let them off the hook so easily. While they sought a quick resolution, I was determined to seek justice for Rachel and our child. Fortunately, the case gained widespread attention, drawing the interest of politicians and the media alike. With their support, the legal proceedings moved swiftly, though it still felt like an eternity. It took roughly 3 years before the case was finally settled in court. The outcome was a significant victory, with the payout for all parties amounting to nearly 10 times the initial offer made by the company. The executives responsible for the negligence faced severe consequences. Fines were imposed, some were sacked from their positions, while others even faced jail time. It was a small measure of closure in the midst of overwhelming grief. During this tumultuous period, my mother became my pillar of strength. Bless her soul, she moved in with me to offer her unwavering support. Her presence was a source of comfort and stability during those dark days, and I often wondered how I would have coped without her by my side. As the legal proceedings unfolded, I continued to work my job in telecommunications, trying to maintain some semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos. Despite the challenges, an opportunity for a promotion presented itself. However, it would require extensive travel around the state, a prospect that didn't sit well with me given the circumstances. I made a bold request to have an office in my hometown's branch, allowing me to oversee business operations there as well. Surprisingly, My request was granted, and I found myself splitting my time between the city office, my hometown, and various locations across the state. It was a hectic schedule, but being able to contribute to my hometown's community gave me a sense of purpose amidst the turmoil. After a year of constant travel, I realized it was time for a change. I decided to purchase a house in my hometown, providing a sense of stability and a place to call my own. It was a decision motivated not just by practicality, but also by a desire to establish roots and create a sense of permanence in a world that felt so uncertain. Little did I know at the time that this decision would play a pivotal role in the events that would unfold later on. 4 years had passed since the tragedy that had torn my world apart. As I settled into a semblance of normalcy, little did I know that a new chapter of my life was about to unfold. It was a typical Friday evening, and I had just returned from one of my business trips. As I sorted through some paperwork in my office, Harry, the managing director of the branch, sauntered in. Harry and I had known each other since childhood, although we had attended different schools. Since my return to town, our friendship had blossomed, and I considered him one of my closest confidants. After exchanging pleasantries, Harry extended an invitation to a house party he was hosting later that evening. Despite the short notice, I welcomed the opportunity to unwind with friends over a few drinks. Little did I know that evening would mark the beginning of a significant turning point in my life. At the party, Harry introduced me to Catherine, a newcomer to town who had recently joined the branch where my hometown office was located. From the moment our eyes met, there was an undeniable spark between us. It sounds cliché, but it felt as though Rachel herself stood before me, her presence hauntingly familiar yet achingly distant. I won't delve into every minute detail, but suffice to say that Catherine and I hit it off from the start. Our connection deepened over the course of 2 years, culminating in a decision to take our relationship to the next level. Catherine moved into my hometown house, and for a time, everything seemed idyllic. My parents welcomed Catherine with open arms, and Rachel's parents, though undoubtedly cautious, expressed their approval and happiness at seeing me find joy once again. But as the months passed, subtle changes began to emerge, casting shadows of doubt over our seemingly perfect relationship. Skype sessions were abruptly cut short, and whispers from neighbors hinted at suspicious sightings. A car resembling Harry's parked in the back alley near my house. Whenever I was away, unfamiliar clothes inexplicably appearing in my wardrobe. Each sign pointed to infidelity, yet Catherine vehemently denied any wrongdoing. She insisted that Harry's visits were purely business, related, fleeting encounters, devoid of any untoward intentions. Despite my growing unease, I chose to trust her words, dismissing my suspicions as baseless paranoia. But deep down, a gnawing sense of unease persisted, casting a pall over what should have been a period of blissful contentment. Nearly 6 months had passed since the first whispers of suspicion had crept into my mind, and the truth I had feared was finally laid bare before me. It happened on a day like any other, or so I thought. After successfully closing a lucrative contract with a new company, I found myself with unexpected free time. Seizing the opportunity to return home earlier than planned, I booked an early flight and set out to surprise Catherine and my loved ones. As I drove into my hometown and down the familiar alley behind my house, a sense of anticipation mingled with apprehension. Would I find Catherine waiting for me with open arms, as I had hoped? Or would the whispers of doubt that had plagued me for months prove to be true? My heart sank as I caught sight of the car blocking the back entrance gate, a car that belonged to none other than Harry. Confusion momentarily clouded my thoughts, But the sight of his vehicle parked so conspicuously in front of my house dispelled any doubts. It was then that I realized the truth I had been too afraid to acknowledge. Steeling myself, I approached the house, my steps heavy with a sense of foreboding. And then, as if in a nightmare from which I couldn't wake, I saw them. Catherine and Harry in my kitchen, locked in an embrace that shattered my world into a million jagged pieces. I stood there, frozen in disbelief, as the betrayal unfolded before my eyes. My mind raced with questions, but there were no answers that could soothe the searing pain in my chest. Without a word, I turned and fled, retreating to the sanctuary of my car, where I could grapple with the enormity of what I had just witnessed. Tears streamed down my face, unchecked, mingling with a rage that burned like a wildfire within me. The same anger that had consumed me in the aftermath of Rachel's death now surged to the surface with renewed intensity. But unlike before, I no longer held back. I wanted to hurt them, to inflict upon them the same pain they had inflicted upon me. Though I had always believed in non-violence, in that moment, I knew that revenge was the only recourse. Their betrayal had unleashed a primal fury within me, a thirst for retribution that could not be quenched until justice had been served. And so, with a steely resolve, I vowed to exact my vengeance upon them, to tear down the lives they had so callously destroyed, starting now. With a heart heavy with betrayal and a mind ablaze with vengeance, I retreated to the relative anonymity of my car, parking it a safe distance away from my driveway. From this vantage point, I could still see Harry's car. A silent witness to the treachery unfolding within the walls of my own home. Summoning every ounce of courage I possessed, I made my way back to the gate, my pulse quickening with each step. Drawing upon a reservoir of resolve, I dialed Catherine's phone, the shrill ring piercing the silence of the night. Through the darkness, I watched as they paused, their guilty glances betraying their shock at my unexpected intrusion. Yet, despite the temptation, Catherine let the call go unanswered. Undeterred, I dialed once more, this time met with a hesitant response. As Catherine's voice echoed through the line, I feigned nonchalance, masking the turmoil churning within me. With a hastily concocted excuse, I ended the call, leaving them to grapple with the weight of their deceit. Moments later, Harry emerged from the confines of my home, his hurried departure a testament to the fear that gripped them both. A flicker of satisfaction danced across my features, knowing that they had narrowly escaped the consequences of their actions, for now at least. As the night wore on, I found myself unable to find solace in sleep. Instead, I retreated to my office, the familiar surroundings offering a modicum of comfort amidst the chaos swirling within me. It was here, bathed in the soft glow of lamplight, that I began to formulate my plan. A plan fueled by a desire for retribution, a desire to reclaim what had been taken from me. With each passing moment, my resolve hardened, my determination unwavering. For too long, I had allowed myself to be a pawn in their twisted game of deceit. But now it was time to turn the tables, to seize control of my destiny and exact the justice they so rightfully deserved. And so, as the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, I set to work, laying the groundwork for the reckoning that was to come. The flames of vengeance burned brightly within me, fueled by a desire to mete out justice in my own way. My mother's teachings of pacifism echoed in the recesses of my mind. But on this occasion, I chose to heed a different call. To take fate into my own hands and deliver the punishment they so richly deserved. With a calculated precision, I set my plan into motion, each step carefully orchestrated to ensure maximum impact. I knew of Harry's clandestine drug habit, a secret he had kept hidden from all but a select few. It was a vulnerability I intended to exploit to devastating effect. Through discreet channels, I reached out to my network of unsavory contacts, procuring a stash of drugs that would serve as the cornerstone of my revenge. It took time, but eventually, I had amassed enough to carry out my plan with ruthless efficiency. The stage was set for the next phase of my scheme, a seemingly innocent gathering of friends for a barbecue night. With Harry sufficiently inebriated, I seized the opportunity to plant the incriminating evidence, carefully concealing drugs and personal belongings in his car and home. As the night wore on and the revelry reached its peak, I bided my time, waiting for the perfect moment to execute the final act of my vengeance. With Harry fast asleep, I set my plan in motion, strategically placing the contraband in his possession, confident that he would remain oblivious to the damning evidence hidden within his midst. Days turned into weeks, and the tension simmered beneath the surface, a powder keg waiting to explode. And then, with a calculated flourish, I staged a break in at my own home, leaving behind a trail of destruction and chaos in my wake. It was a masterstroke, a stroke of brilliance designed to cast suspicion upon Harry and Catherine, to sow seeds of doubt and fear in their hearts. The aftermath was swift and chaotic. A flurry of panicked messages from my mother, tearful pleas from Catherine, and inquiries from the local police. But I remained unfazed, my alibi carefully constructed, my facade of innocence unwavering. As I boarded my flight back to town, I knew that the seeds of retribution had been sown and the wheels of fate set inexorably in motion. The final act of my revenge was yet to come, but for now, I reveled in the sweet taste of victory, knowing that justice, albeit of my own design, would soon be served. As I returned home to the aftermath of the staged break, I wasted no time in taking decisive action. With Catherine staying under my parents' roof until my return, I enlisted my father's help in bolstering our home security. With the approval of the police to preserve the integrity of the crime scene, we arranged for the installation of cameras and an alarm system by a local security company. Upon my return, I played the part of the distraught victim to perfection, expressing shock and disbelief at the events that had transpired. With a heavy heart, I conducted a thorough search of the premises, feigning dismay at the discovery of the missing items. The ensuing police report was filed with all the necessary theatrics, setting the stage for the next phase of my plan. As the security company representative walked us through the operation of the newly installed system, I awaited the opportune moment to broach the subject of privacy concerns. Catherine's hesitance to discuss the matter openly betrayed her guilt, confirming my suspicions. With practiced charm, the representative reassured us of our ability to control the cameras, providing a convenient excuse to disable them during certain private moments. Seizing upon this revelation, I discreetly arranged for email notifications to be sent whenever the cameras were deactivated. A subtle yet effective means of keeping tabs on Catherine's clandestine activities. With the pieces of my plan falling into place, I turned to legal advice for guidance on matters of couples law and property rights. The helpful denizens of the subreddit pointed me in the direction of a reputable lawyer who specialized in such matters. Through their expert counsel, I learned that Catherine held no legal claim to my assets or estate. Thanks to our short tenure as cohabitants and my sole financial contributions to our shared residence, Armed with this knowledge, I felt a sense of reassurance as I obtained a legally binding document to safeguard against any potential legal entanglements. With every detail meticulously arranged and every contingency accounted for, I awaited the moment when my carefully laid plans would come to fruition. With the promise of a promotion looming on the horizon, I found myself swept up in a whirlwind of excitement and anticipation. The prospect of running my own team in the city, coupled with the opportunity to establish a more permanent presence in my hometown, filled me with a renewed sense of purpose. As I embarked on the process of preparing for my transfer, I couldn't help but marvel at the timing of it all. With 6 weeks until my relocation, I had ample time to set the final pieces of my plan into motion. Returning to my hometown, I wasted no time in setting the wheels in motion. With a carefully crafted excuse, I persuaded Harry to grant Catherine a week's vacation in 2 weeks' time, under the guise of a rejuvenating retreat. His enthusiastic approval only fueled my determination, masking the true purpose behind my request. With the stage set for Catherine's temporary departure, I cautioned Harry to keep the surprise under wraps, eager to maintain the illusion of spontaneity. Though I knew word would inevitably spread throughout the office, I remained undeterred, confident in my ability to orchestrate the perfect surprise for Catherine, one that would leave her reeling with disbelief. As the days passed, I meticulously laid the groundwork for the final act of my plan, each detail falling neatly into place like pieces of a puzzle. With each passing moment, the anticipation grew, my resolve unwavering as I prepared to unveil the truth that lay hidden beneath the surface. In just a matter of weeks, everything would come to fruition, and the moment of reckoning would be upon us. But until then, I bided my time, savoring the sweet taste of anticipation as I awaited the culmination of my carefully crafted scheme. With bated breath, I watched as Catherine's eyes lit up with excitement at the news of the surprise trip. Her joy was palpable, contagious even, as she eagerly began making plans with her chosen companions. It was a moment of pure bliss, one that I savored despite the weight of what was to come. As I explained my own upcoming travel plans, a twinge of guilt gnawed at the edges of my conscience. Catherine's disappointment at my absence tugged at my heartstrings, but I reassured her with promises of a grand reunion upon her return. Little did she know, the truth behind my sudden departure lay hidden beneath the surface. A carefully guarded secret that would soon come to light. With each passing moment, the weight of anticipation grew heavier, mingling with the thrill of impending revelation. As I bid Catherine farewell, a sense of liberation washed over me, tempered by the knowledge of what lay ahead. The coming weeks would test the limits of my resolve, but for now, I allowed myself to revel in the fleeting moments of freedom before the storm. As I approached my home after 2 weeks away, a familiar sense of tension coiled in the pit of my stomach. Parking my car a safe distance away, I checked the security camera footage, confirming my suspicions. There they were, fast asleep in my bed, oblivious to the storm brewing on the horizon. With a sense of grim satisfaction, I made my first call to the police, masking my caller ID as I reported suspicious activity in the alley behind my house. Feigning concern, I described a figure lurking near a car, exchanging unknown objects with passing vehicles. A ruse designed to draw attention away from the true nature of the situation. Providing Harry's license plate and description, I watched with anticipation as the wheels of justice were set into motion. Next, I dialed Catherine's number, my voice laced with feigned excitement as I informed her of my imminent arrival. Little did she know, the surprise awaiting her would be far from pleasant. As I watched the chaos unfold on the security footage, a mirthless chuckle escaped my lips. Harry's panicked scramble to escape, the blaring sirens of approaching police cars. It was a scene straight out of a Hollywood thriller. With each passing moment, the pieces of my meticulously orchestrated plan fell into place. The web of deception drawing tighter around those who had wronged me. As Harry's car disappeared into the night, pursued by flashing lights and wailing sirens, I allowed myself a moment of grim satisfaction. The stage was set, the pieces in motion. Now, all that remained was to see how the drama would unfold. As Catherine drifted off into slumber, I found myself consumed by restless thoughts, the weight of my impending actions pressing heavily upon me. With the dawn of a new day, I bid farewell to Catherine and her friends as they embarked on their retreat, their laughter echoing faintly in the distance. Alone in the quiet confines of my home, I set my plan into motion with methodical precision. Calling upon a friend in the moving business, I arranged for the swift and discreet packing of Catherine's belongings, careful to conceal any evidence of our shared life together. As the day wore on, a call from the police drew me into the heart of the unfolding drama. Arriving at the station, I surveyed the recovered property with a mixture of satisfaction and vindication. While some items remained unaccounted for, their absence served only to confirm my suspicions regarding Harry's involvement. The news spread like wildfire through our small town, casting a shadow of disgrace upon Harry's once respected reputation. With his dismissal from the company and the formal apology extended to me by our employers, the scales of justice had tipped in my favor, vindicating my actions and exposing his deceit for all to see. As the dust settled and the echoes of the scandal faded into memory, I allowed myself a moment of quiet reflection. Though the road to retribution had been fraught with peril, the outcome had been worth the sacrifice. With Harry's downfall serving as a stark reminder of the consequences of betrayal, I could finally begin to rebuild my life and move forward, leaving the shadows of the past behind me. As night fell, I sought solace in the familiar embrace of my parents' home, where the comforting presence of family served as a balm for my wounded spirit. With heavy heart, I shared the painful truth of Catherine's betrayal with both sets of parents, carefully omitting certain details to spare them unnecessary anguish. However, their initial shock gave way to disappointment at my decision to keep them in the dark. They found solace in my steadfast resolve to handle the situation with maturity and dignity. Amidst tears and laughter, we toasted to new beginnings and bid farewell to the tumultuous chapter that had come to an end. And as the evening drew to a close, I departed, grateful for the unwavering support of loved ones who had stood by me through thick and thin. Friday afternoon, with the weight of the week's tasks behind me, I embarked on the journey back to the city, leaving behind the familiar streets of my hometown and the memories they held. But before I left, there was one final stop to make, a visit to Becky, Rachel's trusted friend and confidant. In Becky's warm embrace, I found a sense of closure and camaraderie, grateful for her unwavering support during my darkest hours. Handing her a manila folder containing the damning evidence of Catherine's infidelity. Along with legal documents outlining the terms of our separation, I entrusted her with the task of ensuring justice was served. With a final farewell, I set out on the road once more, leaving behind the ghost of the past and embracing the promise of a new beginning. As the city lights beckoned in the distance, I felt a glimmer of hope stir within me. A testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of love to conquer even the deepest of betrayals. As the sun rose on Sunday morning, I awoke to a flurry of missed calls and frantic messages, signaling the abrupt return of Catherine to our now empty home. Panic-stricken and bewildered, she had sought refuge at my parents' doorstep, only to be met with a cold reception and a closed door. With nowhere else to turn, she had reached out to Becky, her last lifeline in a world suddenly turned upside down. The storm of emotions unleashed in her wake manifested in a barrage of accusatory texts and voicemails, each one a testament to the shattered remnants of our once promising relationship. Fearing the worst, I braced myself for a confrontation that never came, grateful for the distance that now separated us. And so, 5 weeks later, as I sit here reflecting on the tumultuous events that have unfolded, I am reminded of the fragility of trust and the resilience of the human spirit. Though the journey has been long and arduous, I am grateful for the lessons learned and the strength gained along the way. In penning these final words, I am filled with a sense of closure, a bittersweet farewell to a chapter of my life that has come to an end. Though the road ahead may be uncertain, I face it with newfound resolve and the unwavering belief that, in the end, the truth will always prevail. Update. One common question is about Harry's fate and why I took such drastic measures against him, especially by sharing this story online. After reaching out to friends back home, I found out that Harry is facing a few months in prison for his first offense, but he might get out sooner. As for why I included this in the story, I felt it was important for closure and to tie up loose ends. Also, I made sure to omit certain details and use generic language to protect my identity and location. The truth is, there was already plenty of evidence against Harry, and my actions simply provided the means for the police to further investigate his activities. As some have asked if I'm worried about Harry or Catherine discovering this post and implicating me. Well, I know Harry doesn't use Reddit, and while Catherine has an account, she hasn't been active recently. As for other Reddit users stumbling upon this, it's hard to say. Most of my friends on my main account might recognize the story, but beyond that, I can't predict who might come across it. I hope this clears up some of the questions and concerns. Feel free to ask anything else, and I'll do my best to answer. As for Catherine, some have wondered why I didn't take more drastic actions against her, or why I endured her presence for as long as I did. The truth is, I came close to kicking her out after just a few days. However, I chose to bide my time and gather evidence of her infidelity. My aim was to expose her betrayal to everyone she knew, believing that it would tarnish her reputation as a self-proclaimed socialite. So I endured, patiently waiting until I had enough proof to bring her downfall crashing down around her. As for Catherine's fate, I've heard through the grapevine that she recently relocated to another state after facing backlash and being transferred to administrative duties. It seems the rumors circulating in town took their toll on her professional life. Now, some have raised questions about the legality of my actions towards Catherine. Moving her belongings out, sending her away on a trip, and spending money on it all. Morally, I understand that it may seem harsh to build up her expectations only to shatter them. However, my ultimate goal was to make her experience the consequences of her actions. From a legal standpoint, though, I was well within my rights. Despite living with me, Catherine never updated her personal information to reflect her residency in my house. This detail, which I discovered during preparations with my lawyer, after seeking advice from legal, meant that I had every right to take the actions I did without fear of legal repercussions. Without concrete proof on paper to establish her residence and no de facto status between us, I proceeded with confidence, knowing I was protected by the law. Regarding the accusations of being a karma whore or a sociopath, I can only say that in today's world, it's not uncommon for people to exhibit some sociopathic tendencies. If there are any further developments or updates, I'll be sure to keep you informed. Thank you for your attention and engagement with my story.